5:14 local time. The USS Frank E. Petersen Jr., a 10,000-ton Arleigh Burke-class destroyer and a $2.2 billion masterpiece of American sovereign power, slices a clean, white wake through the gray, salt-heavy dawn of the Strait of Hormuz. Suddenly, the tactical serenity inside the CIC shatters. In less than 3 seconds, the radar scope transitions from routine transit to a razor-edge geometric proof as 5 sharp blades of light erupt from the northern haze. These are Iranian fast attack craft, accelerating to a combined velocity of 36 knots with one singular intent: to weaponize the narrow geography of the strait. Operating without AIS signatures or radio acknowledgement, these fiberglass hulls are not just driving, they are executing a kinetic box, a calibrated choreography of arrogance. Tehran is betting on a fatal miscalculation. They are acting as self-appointed bouncers in a narrow alleyway, arms crossed, positioning a gatekeeper on the destroyer's bow, while flankers compress the ship's maneuvering envelope to less than 2 nautical miles. Their calculus is a high-stakes gamble. The belief that a 10,000-ton Leviathan will prioritize de-escalation over its lawful transit and blink first. In this theater of the strait, 5 hulls costing less than a fraction of the destroyer's daily fuel budget are attempting to rattle a system designed to solve such kinetic equations in its sleep. It is an exhibition of strategic hubris, and the American destroyer is about to deliver a very expensive operational reset. From the flight deck of the Petersen, the rotor wash of an MH-60R Seahawk tears through the heavy salt mist, lifting the multi-mission platform into the gray air. This is not a standard reconnaissance sortie. It is the deployment of a mobile sensor node designed to widen the fleet's situational bandwidth beyond the curvature of the Earth. As the Seahawk pushes north, the sensor operator slews the AN/AAS-44CV-MTS infrared turret toward the jagged Iranian coastline. Inside the destroyer's Combat Information Center, CIC, the atmosphere tightens as 4K resolution telemetry begins to populate the threat board. They aren't looking at the scenery, they are tracking dust trails, long rhythmic signatures of mass displacement moving across the pale strip of land. This is the physical evidence of a coordinated power shift. The MTS sensors zoom in, stripping away the morning haze to reveal rectangular blocks on mobile chassis. These are mobile anti-ship cruise missile ASCM launchers, NOR and Kawsar systems executing a staggered deployment protocol. The technical analysis is transmitted instantly. Bridge, helo. Possible mobile launchers confirmed. The Iranian units are not merely driving, they are stopping at calculated intervals, lowering hydraulic stabilizers, and slewing their launch tubes toward the exact coordinates where the swarm of fast craft is attempting to compress the American destroyer. The transition from harassment to a firing problem is finalized when the CIC's electronic warfare suite detects a spike in the electromagnetic spectrum. A sharp, rhythmic bip, bip, bip echoes through the speakers. Coastal search radars have shifted from passive monitoring to active illumination. This is targeting support behavior, the digital equivalent of a sniper chambering a round while the spotter counts down the windage. In the logic of multi-domain asymmetry, the 5 fast attack craft on the water are no longer independent actors. They have been reassigned as kinetic compressors. By manipulating the closest point of approach, CPA, these fiberglass hulls are attempting to strip the destroyer of its maneuvering options, forcing the 10,000-ton entity into a geometric blind spot. To the observers in Tehran, this is a masterpiece of tactical coercion. They are utilizing the geography of the Strait of Hormuz, like a knife fighter utilizing a blind alley. They don't need to strike. They only need to use geometric pressure to push the target into a position where the shore-based missile equations are solved. It is a high-stakes attempt to transform an Aegis-class fortress into a static target using speedboats that cost less than the fleet's daily fuel budget. Hormuz has ceased to be a body of water. It has become a giant vice. The 5 surface craft act as the fixed jaw, holding the prey in a predetermined corridor, while the mobile missile batteries on shore serve as the moving jaw, slowly rotating the handle to crush the target into a state of tactical surrender. Every nautical mile the destroyer yields is another turn of the crank toward a lethal operational conclusion. 5:27 a.m. local time. The geometric density of the Strait of Hormuz has reached its critical threshold. The lead Iranian fast attack craft commits to a definitive high-energy maneuver, slewing its bow sharply across the Petersen's projected track. This is no longer maritime theater, it is a terminal trajectory, the closest point of approach. has shriveled to 1.2 nautical miles, a distance that, in the physics of 3 8-knot surface combat, leaves zero margin for human error. On the bridge, the captain monitors the tactical repeater for 1 additional second, a calculated pause to allow the Aegis Command and Decision C&D system to finalize the identification of every active Iranian frequency. He does not reach for the kinetic trigger. Instead, he issues a command characterized by its clinical finality: execute disruption. There is no cinematic explosion. No muzzle flash illuminates the gray dawn. In the invisible realm of the electromagnetic spectrum, the destroyer's electronic warfare EW suite, the ANSLQ-32V6, emits a high-gain, directional pulse of coherent noise. This is a surgical lobotomy performed at the speed of light. The energy is not broad or wasteful. It is meticulously tuned to the specific pulse repetition frequency used by the Iranian swarm to maintain their coordinated mesh network. The result is an immediate phase shift in the water. To the casual observer, nothing has changed, but the physics of the encounter has just been rewritten. The lead Iranian craft suddenly experiences a violent, uncommanded rudder shift as its automated navigation systems fail to process the corrupted GPS data. In the rigid world of fluid dynamics, at a velocity of 38 knots, this sudden geometric deviation is catastrophic to the symmetry of a hydrodynamic wake. The boat's bow slams into the chop with an uneven frequency, vibrating the hull and forcing the helmsman to fight a rudder that is no longer receiving stable positioning data. Behind the lead craft, the swarm begins to step on each other. Their internal data links, which rely on sub-millisecond synchronization to maintain their kinetic box, are now saturated with high-power white noise. The tactical choreography dissolves. On the open bridge-to-bridge frequencies, the previously disciplined silence is replaced by confused traffic, fragmented voices, clipped commands overlapping in a panicked loop, and the distinct sound of operators realizing their digital safety net has evaporated. To the American electronic warfare team, it is like watching a world-class symphony orchestra suddenly have a bucket of industrial sand poured into their collective brain. The Iranian choreography, once a deadly waltz of precision, has been force-shifted into a clumsy, unprepared breakdance. Each musician is still playing, but they can no longer hear the conductor or each other. Tehran believed that volume and coordination could offset a deficit in raw tonnage. They possessed a sophisticated machine until the U.S. Navy pressed the global reset button on its consciousness. Suddenly, 5 fast attack craft representing the pinnacle of IRGC naval doctrine are behaving like 5 drunk men attempting to find their way home in the middle of a high-decibel electronic blizzard. They are no longer a unified weapon system. They are 5 isolated variables floating in a vacuum of information, waiting for a reality they can no longer compute. By 5:28 a.m., the Kinetic Box constructed by the IRGC is no longer a rigid cage. It is a failing algorithm. The electronic disruption pulse has successfully desynchronized the Iranian swarm's internal data links, creating the first measurable cracks in their coordinated pressure. While a human observer might see 5 aggressive hulls, the Petersen's Aegis system sees a fragmented array of misaligned vectors. In the mathematics of naval dominance, the U.S. Navy does not retreat from a trap, it exploits the seam where the trap is weakest. On the bridge, the silence is total, broken only by the rhythmic hum of the ventilation and the flat clinical command of the captain. Come right 2 degrees. This is not a defensive evasion. It is a tactical slide, a minute helm correction, nearly invisible from a distance, but mathematically lethal to the Iranian formation. By shifting the Petersen's bow just 2 degrees, the captain is aiming directly at the geometric seam that is open between the Iranian lead craft and its starboard flanker. Simultaneously, the order for all engines ahead flank travels down the ship's fiber optic backbone. Deep within the hull, 4 General Electric LM2500 gas turbines surge to their maximum limits, their internal temperatures climbing as they convert fuel into raw torque. The Petersen does not burst forward like a speedboat. Rather, it shudders as the massive twin propellers bite into the water, churning a towering wall of white foam. Its 10,000-ton mass manifests an irresistible building momentum, creating a surge of kinetic energy that rapidly crushes the closing distance. This sudden shift in closure rate creates a computational nightmare for the Iranian skippers, deprived of their stable GPS feeds and struggling against a white noise-saturated radar environment. They are forced to recalculate their collision equations manually. In high-speed surface combat, when you are forced to think instead of react, you have already lost the initiative. The Iranian starboard flanker, desperate to preserve the integrity of the box, makes the mistake that ends the engagement. Sensing the American destroyer is about to slip through the gap, the pilot executes an inward turn that is too sharp and too late. In his panic to close the scene, he loses awareness of his own formation's geometry. From 500 feet above, the Seahawk's sensor operator captures a scene that borders on the satirical. The starboard boat's aggressive vector forces it to slice directly across the visual line of the lead craft. The two hunters are no longer hunting the Petersen. They are frantically maneuvering to avoid destroying each other. The wake signatures overlap in a chaotic, frothing mess of fiberglass and salt spray. To the American crew, it is a live demonstration of tactical entropy, a coordinated swarm collapsing under the weight of its own complexity. As the Petersen drives through the gap with the precision of a surgical blade, it doesn't just leave the boats behind. It turns its attention toward the moving jaw of the vice. The shore-based missile batteries. The ANSPY-1DV phased array radar transitions into high-power multi-dwell mode. It stops scanning the horizon and begins staring directly at the Iranian mobile launchers. This is the digital equivalent of an apex predator, locking eyes with a hidden scavenger. A high-bandwidth encrypted data stream is pushed out not to kill, but to identify. Every electronic pulse, every frequency hop, and every radar signature coming from the NOR and COSAR systems is captured, tagged, and timestamped. The message being sent through the spectrum is unmistakable. We have recorded your electronic fingerprints. You are no longer hidden. You are now just a set of coordinates in our fire control solution. The effect on the Iranian Coastal Command is instantaneous. Within 90 seconds of the Petersen's radar lock, every coastal search and targeting system goes dark. They understand the emission penalty of modern warfare. Every second they spend emitting energy is a second. They are writing their own execution receipt. The multi-domain trap has completely evaporated. The mobile launchers are being retracted, and the coastal radars have retreated into silence. They realized, perhaps too late, that the Petersen wasn't a victim being cornered. It was a vacuum cleaner, and they had just handed it 20 minutes of their most sensitive operational data for free. By 5:39 a.m. local time, the initiative has completely evaporated. The 5 Iranian hulls peel off from their failed intercept vectors, retreating toward the northern coastline in a loose, uncoordinated withdrawal. The morning sun begins to wash over the Strait of Hormuz, restoring a deceptive, sterile calm to the waters. Inside the Combat Information Center of the Petersen, the threat posture eases by degrees as the rhythmic pulse of the Aegis system returns to its standard transit profile. The operational record is now finalized. In the framework of modern maritime dominance, this engagement was never about the physical destruction of fiberglass craft. It was about stripping the challenge down to its mathematical bones. The 5 aggressive vessels that attempted to compress a billion-dollar platform have been effectively neutralized, not by fire, but by logic. They are no longer threats. They are simply 5 lines of binary data, time-stamped and stored on a U.S. intelligence server for future diagnostic review. Tehran, we thank you for providing a complimentary real-world training environment. You spent 20 minutes attempting to stage a cinematic show of force, but the only tangible outcome was the wholesale extraction of your most sensitive electromagnetic secrets. We have vacuumed up the unique radar signatures of your coastal launchers and cataloged the exact coordination patterns of your swarm doctrine. In the calculus of the U.S. Navy, we didn't just transit a strait, we performed a deep scan audit on your limitations. The transit continues. The data is logged. Military calculus. Understand the tech that writes history. Goodbye.